Hey everyone, this is Corey, KJ7OVU, new ham operator out of Carson City, Nevada. And I recently purchased a Yaseu FTM-400XDR to install in my brand new 2019 Dodge Ram pickup. It's a 3500 model, and as many people do, I looked on the internet for some ideas on how to install it, where to install it, as most vehicles have different components and whatnot. So I'll try and make this short and sweet. First off, I want to say that I'm a little picky about how things look, and wanted it to be, in a brand new truck, I wanted it to turn out well. So first off, I started by purchasing a Blue Sea fuse block, which you can see here. It is, this one's fairly nice. It's got two positive terminals. As you can see here is the A+ terminal, and that is for constant power. And then it has directly below it, you can see numbered 1 through 6, and those get fused for the A+ block. Then you have the B+ block, and that is for switched devices. Also has 6 numbered fuse slots. And so this positive here, I don't have anything other than this Yaseu that's connected, so I just wanted it for a switched power unit. And so I ran directly from the battery positive terminal to the B+ terminal on the Blue Sea fuse block. And then I ran the ground wire back to the negative terminal on the battery. So the only 2 wires on here, as I said, is for the Yaseu, and you can see the positive and negative DC connectors there. So I fused it for 15 amps, but I left the inline fuses accessible within the cab of the truck. That came with the DC wiring with the Yaseu radio. Connected the positive to the number 1 on the B+ block, and all of these ground terminals up here, it doesn't really matter what you select. It's a common ground. Then I wound up putting the wire through the firewall along with the antenna cable. There was a lot of discussion about how to mount your antenna, and of course the ground plane is supposed to be better if you drill in the roof of your vehicle. I really was not comfortable with that myself. Didn't really want to put holes in my new truck, and so I opted to go with this bracket right here, that all you do is take out the fender bolt, which is that one right there. You slide that bracket onto there, tighten that bolt back down. The only thing that you have to be careful of is the clearance of your hood as it comes down next to that bracket. You'll see how close it gets. And so the suggestion I have for that is bring it down, take a look at it. I've had to move that and tweak it myself. It's not difficult. A couple strikes with a rubber mallet once it was tightened down, a couple strikes out, and then even after that I was able to grab onto it by hand and kind of tweak it a little bit more to bend it enough where the hood would not hit that. So be careful when you're installing it. Don't just put your hood down right away. Bought a brand new antenna, and it is it's a Comet antenna, model CA-2X4SR. It's a multi-band antenna for VHF, UHF. So far, so good. I've done some tests with it, and it works great. Let's take a look at the install inside. But in terms of the antenna cable, I just kind of pushed it through, down, and next to the bracket as close as possible. You can see there's a little indentation here, but it's not affecting anything, and I don't think it's gonna be a long-term problem. Went through a hole in the frame and then just routed the antenna cable back through the firewall. So as I said, most of the videos out there and ideas on how to mount these were for older Dodge Ram trucks, which have the console down here that allows you to do other things with. You can see there's not a lot of space on the side. When they have those, you a lot of times can mount the radio unit to the side, and it'll work just fine for you, but these trucks don't have that. So I didn't want to put this, I didn't want to put the radio unit underneath the seat. I could have, it just was easier to do this, and I think it turned out pretty well for my first install. But one, I didn't want to deal with going under the carpet and under the driver or passenger seat to mount the actual radio. Plus, I felt as though this would give it a little bit more of a cooling effect. It's going to be out in the open where the AC is going to have a chance to circulate and cool it down. One thing I'll point out is the slack that is underneath the radio was done on purpose, and I'll show you why in a second. So as it comes through the firewall, that would be the DC cables as well as the antenna cable. I put them just underneath the carpet here. And then just around the carpet up through there behind the pedals, and you can see the coiled up excess at the back there. I don't have a coax prep kit. Otherwise, I would have cut that down and made that just shorter in general. I'm sure there's some sort of a loss that comes with this, but it still looks clean. I put them in a coil and I zip tied them, made sure they weren't interfering with anything underneath there. And this panel right here comes off very easily. So just a little pull, it comes all the way out of there. But just to show, those were the inline fuses that were on the DC cord. I left those there, like I said, accessible, and just moved it around the carpet there and up to the front. And the reason I did that, and that excess is there, is that in these 2019s, this is a slide out tray. I still wanted the ability to use the tray. There's plenty of space to open that tray fully. I just took, this comes out pretty easily, this little rubber mat in here. But I took a couple of 3/4 inch screws, I want to say, to mount the bracket for the radio head. And you can see it didn't go through that entire panel, but it is solid. There's no movement on this at all. And you can see once it's open that those wires are stretched as far as it will allow. So before I did the coils and everything, I opened up that drawer so that I knew I had enough slack. And you can see as it gets closed, it just sits on top there. So no harm, no foul. Right next to the radio, I mounted the remote head, and that was a little challenging. I used the bracket that came with it, but it's bent when in its natural form. It's more for mounting in a different location. This makes it a little more challenging to access the screws, but if you can see, I bent it backwards, and now it's just kind of a U shape. But that allowed me to screw the remote head bracket at the front of this tray, and then I could still get in there and tighten the head. You can, the only way to do that really was to pull the head towards the driver's seat, tighten it, and then push it back up and make it so that it was in a position for better viewing in the driver's seat. The cable, the control cable from the radio is just coiled up next to the radio and the remote head, and then I zip tied it to the bracket of the radio just to make it look clean. The mic, I put the mic holder in this spot right here, kind of between the four-wheel drive selector and the trailer brake control, and it's nice and solid, and it doesn't impede any of the functions for the trailer brake or for the four-wheel drive. Just a little bit, the cord a little bit kind of gets in the way of the screen, but nothing I've noticed that was a problem. So power it on. And we're in business. So, like I said, this was more of informational for everyone trying to do the same thing. I just had a hard time finding anything that met my needs. So hopefully this helps, and good luck.